Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Mike, this is Build and Tinker, and we are continuing with our build of the Fast and Furious Toyota Supra from the movie. It's a Mark IV Supra, it's bright orange, and it comes in this pack with a license plate. Yes, we actually have our free gift license plate, the California plate, and if we look at the, where is it? If we look at the screen behind me, you'll see, you can't quite see, but I can assure you it seems to be correct. So another cool gift. I've got quite the collection of license plates these days. And nowhere to put them, so I need to figure out what to do with those. Issues 21 to 26 today, and it's mostly chassis. We're getting the main floor pan. Looks like we've got some wheel arches here and other bits and pieces. So should we get stuck in? And here are the parts from issue 21, and they're mostly metal, so they're quite chunky. This is the front brace. The top part's plastic, bottom half is metal. We've got the anti-roll bar, and then this big chunky steering rack, a couple of brackets and some screws. So let's start getting that together. And from this we're going to need the assembly that we built previously, which has the front suspension and everything on it. And we start with the anti-roll bar. And that needs to be installed with a couple of AM screws, and it's going to go into the front here. But let's get everything the right way up, shall we? So with the frame this way up, so we've got the springs pointing downwards, which makes it a little bit difficult to support. Right, there we go. We've got some foam under here. So we're going to install this anti-roll bar, and the way it sits in the frame is these little seats here that the roll bar sits into. One on either side of the frame. And then that should line up this hole on the end with this drop link here. In theory, that's what they say. It doesn't line up particularly well, but let's get a screw in there and see if that makes things a bit better. So we're using AM screws. So that's one side, and we'll just do the other. And that's the anti-roll bar installed there, screwed into either side, and then this piece here is sticking up. It's not very clear in the pictures. I had to look at it several times to be sure. There's now some clamps that go over the top of these bars like so, and they're going to clamp it down onto the main frame rails. Again, we're going to use AM screws for that. Well, and there we have those two brackets installed. Next we need to take this metal piece. It's part of the front frame, and it's going to go on the end of these frame rails here. We need to make sure we get it the right way up. So these posts stick upwards, and we have the opening facing out of the front of the car, and there's these little posts here, and it just sits over the top of those like so, and then some BM screws hold that into place. Now, whenever you're screwing into metal, you want to make sure, particularly with these larger pieces, that you've screwed it all the way in nice and tight. You don't want any play in the frame. Obviously, you don't go so tight as to overstress the screws and snap any. Some people like to put a little bit of 3-in-1 oil on the screw before they put it in. Just make sure it's fully home. I once bought a partially built DeLorean from someone, and they hadn't done that, and every single screw was about 3/4 of the way in. The whole thing wobbled like crazy. I had to completely disassemble it to put it back together again. Then top of that piece that we've just fitted is this plastic cover, and that literally just pops over the front like this. And again, there are some screws to hold it in. There's 3 of them, and they're IMs. And then finally, we have to fit the steering rack. So we're going to put this, again, this way up with the springs facing down. So I'll put some foam there. It just holds it nice and level. And on top here of of each of these wheel hubs, you'll see there's a little post sticking out. And of course, this is where the steering arm goes. Now, we've got to make sure we get it the right way round. So I've got the main frame facing me. And on the steering rack, sorry, not steering arm, steering rack, you'll see there is... It's not symmetrical. So this piece here needs to go over on my left, and we want it to drop just on top of each of these posts for the steering here. onto each hub. And then we screw that in place with an screw on each end. And there we have the steering rack installed, and now our wheels will turn in sync. And that is issue 21 completed, so we'll get on with issue 22. And here we have the components for issue 22, and it's great to have a nice big piece of the chassis here. It's the main floor pan and into the trunk area, and I think we're going to attach to it a couple of small components that have come with it here. This is it's a fuel line and presumably a fuel pump. Well, that's a fuel filter, and there should be a fuel line as well somewhere. Right, there we are. We were missing that. I left it in the box. Fuel line, fuel filter, some screws, and this large piece of bodywork. We also get a roll of electrical tape. I'm guessing that's to tape lines and wires down. They did this with the Skyline, and actually it was quite handy because previous models I've had, instead of giving you a roll of tape, they give you loads of little black stickers to hold cables down, and they're all normally quite useless, just pop off, and I end up using my own electrical tape anyway. So this is quite cool. I don't know how much of it we'll need, but we'll put it to one side. And we start with this fuel filter and fuel line. And if you take a look at this fuel filter, you'll see there's a little post here on the end, and it's onto this that we have to fit the fuel line. Now, according to the book, the fuel line has a little right angle in it. This is the fuel line that they supplied. It's not much of a right angle, more of a squish. It's been crushed somehow, so I'm going to have to try and figure out how to gently... Well, I'm not going to be able to open that up, but I can snip the end off. I just hope we don't take off more than is necessary. So let's give that a little snip. And there we are, one open line. And we can now fit that to the end of the filter. Like so. So there it is. And we now need to fit this to the chassis plate. So we're going to spin it over because it goes on the underside. Always makes me nervous when they have us putting things underneath like this, because I can sense it going to fall off. It goes onto here by the looks of it. So there is a post on this fuel filter, and it goes into this hole here. And it will sit at an angle which will present this screw hole over another little screw post. We need an IM screw in there. And there we are. With that screwed in place, it's not going anywhere. And now we have to grab this front assembly, this whole subframe that we just finished, and that's going to now sit in here like so. Now what's tricky is we've got springs attached to the front subframe, so I can't lay it down on the deck, and if I do, it tries to separate. So I'm going to put some foam under that, and I'm going to put some foam underneath this main chassis, piece of foam here. It's just going to hold it. It's not in the right position, but it's definitely a lot closer, and should make it easier for me to screw them together. So we put BM screws, 4 of them, 2 on each side, into here. And once we've got the first one in, it starts to become a little easier. And with that now attached, we just need to take these 2 lines that were originally attached to the front subframe. We did these some time ago. There's 2 of them, and it wants us to track them down the underside of the car in here, in this transmission tunnel. And we're going to tape those into place with a bit of our electrical tape. So it suggests that we cut a length of tape for each one that is 3 centimeters, and for our American friends that's 30 millimeters. So without putting it too tight, because I don't want to cause any problems at this end, but I also don't know how much I'm going to need at that end, so I don't want to go crazy with leaving slack. But we're going to put a piece here. So our second piece goes in here where it drops down. And that's the end of this issue. So that's issue 22 complete. And it's really good to have a nice big piece of the chassis now finished. We can get a feel for how the car is going to look. And it's quite big. As with all these 1/8 scale models, they're all pretty big. And I still have no idea where I'm going to display it. Let's have a look at issue 23. So in issue 23 we get these two strips here. They're plastic and they're part of the side rails of the chassis, and they actually go on the underside, so I'm going to need to turn this over. We also get this bracket which I just managed to drop. Now this is where bits of foam come in really handy to help support the car. I don't really want it resting on the springs. These are of course handed left and right, and if you look closely you'll see that it's stamped into them here. Obviously the car's upside down, so the right of the car is actually this side nearest me. And they go here in these rails just here. They will screw in, but for now they actually push fit. And there's a little bit of resistance, which is kind of handy because we're going to need that to hold them in place while we flip the car over and screw them in. Before we do that, we get our screws ready. That's AP screws. And we're going to need 6 of them. So what I'm going to do is put the car on its side. They're less likely to fall out that way. Okay, and that's all 6 of those screws installed from the top. And as I was doing that, I was reminded how wonderful the brakes are on this car. And they really are. Let me zoom in so you can have a good old look at this. This is the front wheel assembly. And this is a metal brake disc, drilled and slotted. And then we've got the hub there and the caliper. And although the caliper could probably use a little bit of weathering, I think this is one of the best wheel discs I've seen in quite a while, other than the third-party modded ones from someone like Mike Lane. These really are incredible. So it's a finishing touch that you are going to see them through the wheel. It's that big open spoke wheel, so it was important that they made them look good, and they've really pulled that off. So we're not quite finished with issue 23. The next thing we need to do is grab the engine, which we kind of put together a little while ago. So let me go and get that. And before we fit it, we need to add this hose. So this hose goes from, if we flip the engine over very carefully, goes out the back here of, so it's a wire really more than a hose, and so it comes out the bottom of this starter motor, and there is a post that's incredibly difficult for me to see, let alone show you, but there is a post here. I can just about see it through the gap. I certainly can't get to it. I'm not quite sure how I'm supposed to fit this, but let's give it a try anyway. Sometimes what I find is if you get the tip of some tweezers and push it into the end of the hose first, just gently, just stretches the end out ever so slightly. On this particular one, the post that I'm trying to put it onto is quite wide, and because I can't get my fingers close to it, I can't get any real grip. So I'm having to push it on from a distance. Okay, with a pair of tweezers I've been able to get that on, and now we have to actually insert the engine into the frame. So there's, again, hoses and all sorts I don't want to knock off, and anyone who watches my other videos know how often I knock hoses off. So we need to get, as you would in a real car, for anyone who's done it, we want to put the transmission in first and then gently move the engine back into its resting place. We need to prepare ourselves with a couple of BM screws. Now, as is always the case, it screws in from underneath, so we now have the complex task of turning it over, holding it into place, finding the screws, lining them up, and also not breaking anything in the same time. Okay, so we've put the engine in, and you do have to push it a long way back. The sump needs to sort of sit in this gap here, and there are 2 holes, one here and one here, and that's where we secure the engine. You see the gearbox goes a long way back. I'm trying desperately to support it all and not break anything. Okay, I'm going to get my foam in place. Okay, so I have these 2 engine bolts in. They were really fiddly. Lining those brackets up is really hard, and the engine's very fragile because it's covered in plastic pieces, and you're trying to negotiate it all in, and invariably things get broken, and I've literally just snapped the top half of the engine off, which screwed in from the inside, and it snapped the screws off. So frustrated is not the word, because that was easily avoidable with better design. However, I can fix it. Nothing some super glue won't resolve. There's another tube that's come off of no idea from where. So I'm going to have to go back to some of the previous issues, figure out what I've done and fix it. Before we do that though, there's this bracket which sits over here and secures the transmission onto the chassis. AM screws go on the outer side and BM screws in the middle onto the gearbox. So the final piece would be to take the fuel line that we just installed and connect it to the end of the fuel rail here on the top of the engine. Obviously I've just broken this piece off, so I'm going to need to repair that first. It should be quite straightforward. That needs to be glued on. This little piece has come off. I don't know where it came from. This hose has come off. Don't know where that came from either. And this keeps falling off the transmission. It does it with routine. So I need to glue that back on as well. But I'll get all of that done ready for the next episode. Because now we're moving on to issue 24. So with issue 24, we've got this piece here. And this goes into the back of the chassis from underneath. So we need these oil lines out of the way. And it just sits up in this void here. There's another oil line being crushed, whatever it is. And actually it holds itself into place, which is quite convenient. We now need to get a packet of IP screws. And we simply screw it in on each corner through these posts. And that's all we have to do for issue 24, so pretty quick and easy. So with issue 25, we're fitting a wheel arch, and this is a nice big metal piece, and it goes on to the left of the car, which with the car the right way up now is this side. And so the wheel arch drops into place here. We've got one tab sitting on a post there, and then another one sitting on a post just here at the end of this side rail. Just drops nicely into place. We're going to screw that in with some BM screws. And then this plastic piece comes in underneath and is screwed in from the top here, like so, with some IP screws. That's issue 25 complete. Issue 26 is exactly the same, but for the other side of the car. So I'll just get that done now. So here it is, the finished article. An almost complete chassis with the exception of the rear suspension. Very soon we'll be able to get some wheels on it, hopefully, and see it in rolling form. The engine's in, the gearbox is in. We've suffered a little bit of damage there to the top of the engine, but nothing I can't fix with some glue. So it's frustrating, but it happens, and I'm not going to let it bother me too much. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope your builds are coming along well. Let me know how you're getting on. Leave some comments below. Tell me what you're up to and tell me where I could do things better. Obviously, not breaking the engine would be slightly better, wouldn't it? In the meantime, have a great day, and I will see you next time. Take care.